Hello and welcome to That Service Dog Show. I apologize. I've had some health issues that has prevented me from recording a lot of videos and uploading them. So I do apologize for those of you who have been asking. That is the issue. And at this point, I'm not even going to pretend like I'm going to be able to keep a regular schedule at this time. I'm not really going to go into a lot of explanations, but do know that I am going to do my best and I will continue to make content as time and health constraints allow. But in the meantime, please like and subscribe, share to anyone that you feel would be beneficial to this kind of content. If you want to leave me a comment here, that's awesome. If you would like to comment, but not in a public forum like here on YouTube, you are welcome to email me at thatservicedogshow@yahoo.com. You can also find me on X as well as Facebook under the same name. Now, so for the topic of today's video, I'm going to mention something that I've actually had to help a few other handlers in recent weeks with, as recently as yesterday. And it became like a light bulb moment that this is probably something that more people need to be made aware of who aren't whenever they first join the service dog community. It is the hardest part, in my opinion, of getting used to being a new service dog handler. And what is that? Well, it's not the public, even though that is a very difficult thing to get used to. It's actually the service dog community as a whole itself. It is a very niche community. And while there are many people in the community who truly do want to help people like myself, people like Jenny from my previous video, the other individuals who have joined me on this show so far, they are all wonderful and they are all doing their best to be helpful and reach out and help people as they adapt and learn new things that they need to learn to be a service dog handler. But to be honest, the community as a whole can come off extremely abrasive. And a term that I actually used with someone yesterday, and it really is a very apt description of the service dog community as a whole. It's more like an episode of Mean Girls, where now men can get pretty testy, but as a whole, women are worse. Look at any job or school, and you can see the socio-dynamics of people trying to interact with one another. Well, that is kind of amplified in the service dog community. And the individual I was speaking with yesterday, she's actually, for her own mental health, had to step away from the service dog community. And I fully understand that because I've had to do that myself. And except for the 4 groups that I administrate for, I think I'm only in 2 more groups, and those are more travel-based. And it's more of people are going in for specific questions for how to get to Antigua, or whenever you're traveling to Japan, or has anybody done this in Germany? So there's less of an opportunity, I believe, for that mean girl aspect to really seep in. But whenever you're trying to get in with the service dog community, much like whenever I first came in, you're not aware of this. And you are just wanting to dive head first, and you're wanting to get around people that are your people who should, of all people, be able to understand your issues, your health issues, your education needs whenever it comes to being a service dog handler. But to be honest, there are more people out there in the community that leap onto any sign of weakness. And it really saddens me because, again, this is a community that I hold near and dear to my heart. I cannot work. So my social life really is the service dog community. And I will use my own stories because I promised the people that I spoke with that what we spoke about would stay between us. So I'm not going to bring up their issues. But I've had my own mean girl drama in recent years. Whenever I first got my first service dog, I was, really wanting to connect with other service dog handlers. I was excited about how I was learning to train my service dog, and I was excited about how much he knew and how good he was. And after we'd been working together for, I think, 2.5 years, he was a fully trained service dog by that point, and he was already fully trained to be an off-leash service dog due to my health issues that I was needing, as well as combined with his size, because now I have had bariatric surgery. I am losing weight, but at that time I was close to my heaviest. My heaviest was 365, and my dog was not even 30 pounds. And I had balance issues. And I stepped on him so many times that he nearly went lame, and it became an issue where we needed to work him off leash for his own safety. Because up to that point, yes, he did do crowd control, but we did crowd control on a leash. I know a lot of people don't think about crowd control on a leash, but it really is best to learn on a leash because for various reasons, and the legal issues being, not even a minor part of it, because you really do have to prove, if you end up in court, that it cannot be done on a leash, and in order for a dog to be legally off leash. And if that's the only reason, then you're in a very gray area, and it really depends on which judge you pull for that kind of a case. So, but yeah, I had nearly lamed him. He had been injured many times by me, and working with his vet, and working with a lawyer, actually, to make sure I had everything done legally. General did start working off leash. He did not start working off leash until after he was 3.5 years old, because he is half German Shepherd, and large dogs, especially dogs like German Shepherds, they're not fully out of the puppy phase until they are closer to 3 years old. And I wanted to make sure he was fully out of puppy phase, because you can have a dog that does absolutely perfect, but every so often that puppy brain will just kick in, and your totally awesome dog can end up having a major issue. So that was something that I waited for with my first dog. And so he was probably 4 years old whenever we first joined this one group. And but the reason I know this timeline is because, again, he was working off leash at this point, and I did not start working him off leash until after he was 3.5. So an example of the mean girl mentality, the people that we actually met up with were trainers. So I felt safe. I felt comfortable. These are the people I need to be meeting up with, only to learn later on that they were the mean girls. They were spreading lies about my dog and me, and basically he was a pet in a vest, which you will find a lot of people will claim, especially in a team that may work differently than they do. Because, again, General was working off leash. Again, I had worked with both his vet as well as a lawyer to make sure that everything was done appropriately. And I also did not have the obvious alerts because my mental state whenever I got my first dog was not where it is now. And I could not tolerate having someone who may be 15 feet away from me, knowing that my dog is having to work. So he was actually trained, and you can actually find the video that I'm referring to here. Here on my channel, I do explain General's tasks and how he was trained. But he was trained to do silent alerts. And because, again, my mental health was not in a place where I really could tolerate just anybody being able to tell that, hey, my dog is doing this, or hey, my dog is doing that. So, but whenever we were at meetups, several of them, in fact, I have multiple chemical sensitivity, which means that I react to chemicals in the air. Many times it means that I am going to stop breathing. And that was one of General's jobs, was to tell me, hey, your oxygen levels are dropping. You need to get your mask on. You need to get your oxygen out, things like that. So whenever he would alert at these meetups, I would be like, hey, just letting you know, General's alerting. I need to put my mask on because, my mask was a 3M mask. It still is a 3M mask that I carry around with me for whenever I need it. Right now, I'm currently in what's called a type of a remission, so I don't react as severely as often. But I never know when that severe reaction is going to occur. But so I let everybody in the groups know, hey, my dog is alerting. He's doing this, which means that I need to do that. Well, after we have done, meetups for some time, I start doing meetups with other people, or I would come across people in some of the groups on Facebook, or even meet up with them out and about, organically, where we would come across one another, and then, we would chat, we would talk, and then I would hear that, oh, you're that dog. That's the dog that I've heard about. That's General. I'm like, well, what have you heard about us? And, I would be told that my dog was nothing like what they had been led to believe, because they had been led to believe that my dog was essentially an untrained pet in a vest, a wild hellion that I could not keep control over. I ended up hearing this from 9 different people. So, and I did make the video, but in the video, I wanted to discount everything that had been said about us, but I also did not want to be the kind of person that goes and says, well, so-and-so said this, so I'm going to go. So I do not say their name. I do not say their training facility's name in the video. However, whenever I posted it, I got a nastygram from that person, or one of those people, because I was actually told it was both of the trainers at that facility. But one of the individuals is the one who apparently is the worst. And so completely just, it was, if I had printed it off, it would have been at least a good page, front and back, 8-point type letter of just ranting and raving about how it wasn't, because I said nearly a dozen people, because I wanted to protect those who had said something to me. I did not know exactly how many people I had been badmouthed to, but I kind of figured that I probably had not heard it from everybody, and 9 does round up to a dozen. So the message said it was not a dozen. It was only 9 people, which, how does that make it any better? And again, it was just a complete, and it affected my mental health so bad that I very nearly did some things that would have been irreversible. And I will just put it that way for YouTube. Well, and then I had blocked, and then they had someone kind of, infiltrate my small little circle of friends that I was trying to have so that they could report back to them. And whenever I found out about that, again, it sent my mental health spiraling. So dealing with the service dog community can be very detrimental to someone's mental health, especially if they're not ready for it. And even so many years later, I mean, these people are completely unhinged to the point where Instagram suggested that I follow a cat. And had no idea whose cat it was. And I was like, well, sure, who doesn't like a cute little cat video? Well, again, I got another Instagram about how I was stalking this person. And I'm like, who are you? And of course, they're like, well, you know who this is. Of course, you knew who it was, or else you would not have followed this cat, and yada, yada, yada. Again, completely unhinged. And I would like to say that unhinged people like that are a rarity in the service dog community. But remember, this is a community of disabled people, both with physical disabilities as well as mental health disabilities. So we're actually, it's one of the reasons why it is such a toxic community. And I'm going to use the word community very loosely because we're not much of a community. We're a group of people who happen to share one part of our lives. We need service dogs. But that's pretty much it. We don't really gather around one another and support one another like a community would. And that's really something that people who come in from the outside, whenever they first join, they really need to understand that this is not like your community that you may have for those who want to play D&D together, or for those who collect reborn dolls, or those who like to do confirmation classes with their dogs, or any of these other communities. Those are communities. We're just a mishmash group of people who happen to need service dogs in order to survive. And I wish it wasn't like that. But again, I administrate 4 different groups. 2 I created, and 2 I was brought in on because of my knowledge and expertise in certain areas. The administrators who created those groups came to me. I did not go to them, and asked me to at first moderate and then to administrate. So I see it a lot. I see it daily. There are a lot of things I see daily. People who have honest questions many times will run screaming from the Facebook group or Reddit group or whatever page that they've posted a question on, because the reactions that they get to an honest question that they really don't know the answer to. And they're just assumed to be trying to scam the system. Like, those of us in the community who have been in the community for a while know that there are no such thing as a federal registration for service dogs in the United States. There are no certifications and no registrations that are legally backed and legally supported by law. Having one like from your trainer, or even, they're great to have on hand in case you end up going to court. But that's pretty much it. And anything that you get from a website, well, those are novelty items. And if you look carefully, either on their websites or on the actual documents that you will receive in the mail, if you do get scammed out of that money, it will say somewhere that is a novelty, that is not meant to be used to make your dog a service dog or an emotional support animal. So many times, I think on one of the groups, we average it about 3 or 4 times a day, because nobody uses search functions on any of the groups. So the same questions get asked daily, which does make some people very jaded, especially since, out of those 3 times, usually at least one, it is because someone's trying to scam the system. But the other 2 times, usually it is a very innocent question that they really don't know that there is no such thing legally. So whenever people ask, they just get raked over the coals over it. So whenever people ask that in my personal groups, I will go ahead and leave the ADA links and answer them honestly, but then turn off comments so that they don't get dogpiled, where everybody's saying the same thing and assuming that they are, again, trying to scam the system. I don't do that on the other groups because while I help administrate, they're not my pages. I follow the leads of those who have created the pages. But yeah. So the hardest thing in becoming a new service dog handler is the community itself. And if you can find 1 or 2 people who are knowledgeable, to who won't just help you stay in an echo chamber, tell you what you want to hear, then that's good. However, I've seen where trying to just maintain those 2 or 3 friendships can be to the detriment as well. So trying to find a balance is best if you're able to try to kind of, pop in and pop out whenever your mental health needs it. That's what's best, because if you stay in an echo chamber, then you will not grow. And I see this with a lot of newer handlers, especially, where they all kind of, oh, you've been a service dog handler for 6 months. I've been a service dog handler for 5. Let's get together and we'll train our dogs and we'll work it out together. That's good, but you also need to have a veteran service dog handler, someone who's been around the block a few times, that will also kind of help point you in the right direction whenever you're kind of, going down a slippery slope. Because I know of some handlers that they have surrounded themselves with echo chambers. And then whenever people are trying to point out that their dog is having issues, well, their friends say that their dog is fine. So, these people don't know what they're talking about. And then I've seen that same dog or others who may be in similar situations where the dog either, ends up just hating the job. Yes, I've seen some dogs that I'm like, this dog really does not like this job. This dog does not want to be a service dog. He tasks, but there's no joy in his life. You can just see that the joy's just gone. And then there are other dogs that people are trying to make into service dogs that end up attacking people. And it'll be a moment where you're like, this dog should have never been put in that situation because it should not have ever been a service dog. But again, that echo chamber will tell the handlers, like, no, other people don't know your dog. Your dog's awesome. Your dog's wonderful. Look, I've got dogs. I've got Alexander and I've got General still. I love my dogs and they are awesome for what they can do. But we can always grow. I am not a perfect service dog handler. My dogs are not perfect. Absolutely not perfect. And is my dogs, are they trained in ways that somebody else may want their dog to be trained? No, because my disabilities are different. My personality is different. But as long as they are able to maintain a certain threshold of decorum, then yeah, that's really important, along with being able to task train. But yeah, there is a reason why only 1 to 3% of dogs should be worked as a service dog, because the temperament needed is so rare. And Alexandra's getting ready to come up on 2 years old, but she's a boxer, which means that she will not be mentally mature for another year. So she won't be in the clear until she reaches her adult personality, adult temperament, her adult, the adult phase of training, so that I know that, yes, okay, she had the right temperament and I was able to do XYZ appropriately. Just like, again, with General, there were certain things that I did not start training until he was 3.5, because of the fact that even though he's a small dog, he is half big dog, at least in the brain. So I treated him as if he was a full-blood German Shepherd whenever it came to certain things that I waited to train for. But some people in the community insist that every dog should be trained the exact same way. And if your dog is not trained the way their dog is trained, then you are faking your dog, you are faking your disability. You don't deserve to have your service dog. You will, you're going to make it so much harder. Well, there are certain things that do make it harder for all service dog handlers. But having it where my dog looks around me for my environment instead of always keeping eyes on me is not one of them. Having my dog sniff, because I need my dog to sniff the air to alert me to certain chemicals before my body starts to react, because Alexandra does not have General's ability to be able to detect my oxygen levels. So that means instead of maintaining her focus on me, I need her to maintain her focus on the air, which means she's going to be sniffing and sniffing all the time. That's the only way that she's going to be able to do her job. So if she happens to be walking through the mall and she's sniffing, obviously, for some people that's an issue. But I'm sorry, she's breathing, she's sniffing, she's doing her job. It would be one thing if she was sniffing food. She does not sniff on food. She sniffs the air. She sniffs things that are close to me that can harm me, because items that are within my immediate orbit is close enough to cause me to have health issues. So one thing is like clothing before it is sent to stores to be sold. It may not be well known, but for those of us who have my condition, we do know, and we know this and have to wash our clothes repeatedly long before we can ever wash our clothes, or wear our clothes rather. But clothing is sprayed with chemicals to help give it that fresh look, that nice, fresh, crisp look whenever it's folded or on hangers in clothing stores. So she does sniff whenever we go buy clothing, and I've had people tell me it's an issue, and I see their point, but my point is also it's one of her jobs to sniff, to make sure that what is in my immediate orbit is not going to hurt me. Because I've had somebody say, well, yes, dogs can sniff. Like if a dog is gluten detecting, then yes, they would smell this food and they would tell you whether or not it's okay or not. Well, that works if you have a very specific allergy that you only are exposed to at specific times, like getting ready to eat. But you're always breathing. So that means my dog always has to sniff. But again, because other people don't like that aspect, they feel it shouldn't be taught. But again, I need it. So then I hear from other people of how some people who have never even seen my dog have heard from people who have seen my dog that this is how my dog is trained. And, again, it's the mean girl issues, where everybody gossips. Everybody's going to gossip about you whenever you have a service dog, and other service dog handlers are the worst about it. So it is one thing that I figure I would just go ahead and put that out there. Is there a solution? Not a very good one. Again, you can try to isolate yourself, but then you can't grow. You can take on just a couple of people, but then you end up in an echo chamber. Or so if you surround yourself with just one or two people, I would make sure that those one or two people are knowledgeable and will not blow smoke up your ass. If there's an issue, they're going to be actually willing and able to tell you that there's an issue in a diplomatic way, because nobody wants someone to just completely ride their ass about an issue without trying to at least be diplomatic about it first. So, excuse me. Whew. I'm going to need to sneeze. So I guess this is as good a time as any to go ahead and end this right now. I will probably just do videos like this for a while whenever I'm actually able to hop on. I'm not going to try to arrange interviews with other people until I know that I'm in both a better health and for physically as well as mentally. Because again, I've had some things fall through because of my health recently. And I actually no longer even have those 2 or 3 people that I surround myself with. So there's very few people that really know what's going on in my life now. And I think that's probably for the best. Especially since it seems like every time I try to find a friend group, the mean girls find me. I got reports back to me about my last meetup that I was with someone, and the things that they were saying that went on during that meetup. I'd like to actually go and find out where they were at, because it sure wasn't with me. Things that were told to people, just, they don't happen, But, so yeah, I think I'm going to actually call it quits whenever it comes to service dog meetups for a while. I'm tired of the same people who end up being part of the same orbit that are still into the whole mean girl personality thing from finding their way my way. If anybody has been stalking anybody, anyways. But yeah, so I'm going to be posting as often as I can. And for anybody who has any topics that they would like like for a video to be made about, please feel free. Either comment here. I know that so far nobody's wanted to comment on YouTube itself, and I fully understand. You're more than welcome to continue to be using the That Service Talk Show at yahoo.com to send in your comments and questions and observations. I will say that it will help with the YouTube algorithm if there's likes and comments and shares from this platform itself. But like I said, I understand, and I'm not going to have anyone put themselves in a situation where they feel uncomfortable with having their name attached to anything in a public forum like this. So feel free to continue to use the email. And until the next time, I'm Dawn for That Service Talk Show. Bye.